Hey guys, a video for our castles and old buildings in Japan playlist. We're just going through a classic entranceway here from the street, through these big heavy wooden doors into the gardens of this old house. This house is 151 years old. It's been in the same family all that time, and it was built by their ancestor who owned ships, apparently, and did rather well from it, we would guess, by the condition of this amazing old house. So on the right there we have a kura. Some of you know we're right into our kura. That's a really classic kura storehouse there, two-level storehouse, used to keep all the valuables and the food and anything that they wanted to protect from the weather and the animals and the rodents. And fire, they're usually fireproof too, the old storehouses. Beautiful. So thick mud walls and big heavy doors, really well fitted heavy doors that just fit so there's no gap for insects to get in. Same with the windows. So they could put their rice, store their rice in there over winter or anything else they wanted to store in there, and it would be protected from the animals. That's an interesting thing up on the roof. We haven't seen many of those before. We'll show you what that's about a bit later. And a series of gardens around the house. That's the little tea room over the other side there, looking out onto this garden. And you see the side of the kura there with the black with the white crosses. Kura meaning black, of course. That's why they were called that. The black house. So look at the beams. We showed you in old houses before, and castles and so on. Those big beams are just put up just how they are, their natural shape. They don't try and cross-cut them or anything. They just put them up in their own natural shape because they know that gives them the most strength. It's a classic kitchen. So I showed you on previous videos, quite often in the old houses there was no way to let the smoke out from the fire. But in this case, that thing we showed you before, that's what that is up there, to let the smoke out from the fires from the kitchen. Now they didn't usually do that. The idea was that they'd let the smoke go up through into the ceiling and into the roof, because the thinking was that the smoke would stop insects, white ants and so on from eating the wood, and would protect the thatching and the other roofing from being eaten by insects and by being inhabited by insects and rodents and things. So that sort of chimney thing we saw up there is quite rare. So there's the well there in the middle. So you can see how that evolved. There was a bucket and a pulley system, and then there was the pump. So the pump came in later, of course. More curved wood up there. Through into probably the larder where they keep their cooking pots and keep their other foods things, you would think. Courtyard. Now it's another kura over there that we can see, another storehouse, another two-story storehouse. That's always a sign of people that are doing well for themselves. A two-story storehouse is always a bit of a thing. It shows people are pretty well off. But two-story storehouses says they're doing very well for themselves. So this is a fairly classic design as well. This is where the toilies were. Now it's sort of not really there anymore. See, there would have been a hole in the floor there where that piece of wood is, and there would have been a sort of an ornate lacquered wooden hole thing with a handle, which is now gone, but that would have been the toilet. Just a hole, and underneath that hole is a wooden box which they'd empty on a regular basis. Wooden box full of sand usually, and they'd empty that out now and again, like a cat sandbox, isn't it really? But that's the way it works. So this is the business part of the house. This is sort of their office. So people coming to see them on business would have come in here. Oh, it's their skiing gear for some strange reason. It's been put in the corner. Right into skiing, apparently. Really old safe there in the corner. This is fairly typical. Merchant type houses like this were pretty typical like this. They'd have the living part of the house separate, and then a part like this for doing business where people would come in and do business with them in here. That's actually outside this house. Outside this house, what, 90 years ago or something. So at some stage they've changed the walls, they've done things at some stage. It's fairly original, but you can see they've sort of modernised different things at different times over the years, but it's been pretty well maintained. And amazingly, this place was still being lived in 40 years ago, which is pretty amazing, which is why in that kitchen there was actually a sink that wasn't really old. It was probably about 40 or 50 years old. So they were still using that kitchen 40 or 50 years ago. There was people still living in the house using that kitchen. And there is electricity in the place, but it's like old light switches, you know, from 70 years ago or something. And a lot of the fittings are old like that. So we often find that houses that are continually occupied like this one, that's how they're maintained so well. We actually showed you a castle that was the same. Inuyama Castle in Aichi is the same. People were actually living in that castle until not very long ago. And when you have that constant occupancy, that's why they maintain so well. Because they're upkept, particularly if it's by a wealthy family. They put the money into upkeeping the place. And Inuyama Castle was the same situation, and same as with this house here. The families always had a bit of money so they could maintain the place and keep it in good condition. And then since then, it's been taken over by, or managed by, sort of a museum type committee who maintain it and look after it, and it's sort of treated a bit like a museum now, so people can come and see through it. There's a tokonoma there. So a lot of these important rooms had tokonoma in them, where they'd show scrolls and plants and things. Not plants, it's ikebana really. So there's one, there's a classic. So there's a tokonoma there on the left with the scroll, and then with the ikebana at the front. Simple, always kept simple like that. So it sort of means that was a reasonably important room, that room, if it's got a tokonoma in it. So there would have been a toilet out there too. Pretty big sprawling place, so more than one toilet, more than one bathroom. But this is fairly classic. Go out on the little veranda thing and then go around those corners. There would have been a toilet around there for sure. It's closed off now, but we know for sure that's where it would have been. And this is their tea room. So the boss would have sat in this room with whoever he was entertaining, and then someone would have sat in that little room adjoining it and made the tea and then served it to them while they were sitting there looking out over the garden. So there would have been a roidi. Iroidi is like an inside fireplace. So at some stage, if they were doing the tea ceremony there would have been a little iroidi in there that they would heat up their water with. Inside fireplace. We've got a video of one of those somewhere, or a few videos with featuring them. So yeah, for sure the toilet would have been down around that corner there. Probably still is, but it was closed off to us this day. There's the Kuro over there. See the black with the white checks? Classic Kuro design. And again, the Kuro's been maintained with the rest of the house all that time. 150 years it's been looked after and it's still beautiful. How's this hallway? Beautiful polished floors. So here's a classic. This is a closet with the sliding doors, and there's a sort of a chest of drawers there that actually doubles as a staircase that leads to upstairs, and that's really classic. You see that in the old houses all the time because it makes use of space. The stairs are in the closet, so they're not taking up space, but they're also doubled as drawers so that the space is being used well. So we're outside again. There's the main complex over there, and then there's this over here is the stables. And so there's stables there on the left, 2 of them. It's a storage now, as you can see. There's another door to the outside there to bring the horses through. So just storage again. So that's the 2 stables, and then there's another building here, so we don't know. There was nothing to say what this was used for, but it's got another bathroom in it that we love. This Nicabana. We love this bathroom for a few reasons. Check it out, it's a classic. See the fire down the bottom there and the big pot. Now imagine you'd never quite get it right. It'd be too hot or too cold, wouldn't it? But you light the fire down the bottom and then you climb in the big barrel. Now look at the taps. The taps there are about 70 years old, which means they were still using that big barrel for a bath. Probably 40 or 50 years ago, because they were still living there then. And again, see, this is why it's been maintained so well, because people were still using it. Isn't that amazing? We love that room. Isn't that classic? So we love this place just because it was so original. We love the ones that are really original and that have had that constant history. It's just like walking through history when you walk through a place like that, because it's just how it would have been 150 years ago. Amazing, isn't it? Anyway, hope you enjoyed that. More videos coming soon.